Let's get nerdy here, and we're going to get nerdy today by talking about one of the movies that we just watched. This one was Lucy, and you can see that we have this beautiful steel book of Lucy. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's very pretty.
It's very pretty. Like Scarlett Johansson.
Bella's like, meow. She knows.
Meow. Bella has good taste.
She does. Okay, so what are we discussing about Lucy?
I guess thoughts and opinions, questions. I have a lot of questions.
I hope you don't expect me to answer because I don't have a lot of answers. I mean, I might have a few, but it's
more of maybe not exactly rhetorical questions, but I guess just like food for thought questions, or like, what's your opinion?
Shoot.
Okay. Well, number one, let's get the generic questions out of the way. What were your thoughts on the movie?
It's one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts on the movie. It's just my favorite. I like it.
And why?
Just the intensity of it. Everything that it's about. And it makes you think about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's very different from a lot of other action movies in the sense that it makes your mind wrap around this huge concept that we don't. I guess people think about it, they question like, what is the meaning of life, and like, wow, what would happen if I were to unlock even more potential, and so it incorporates a lot of like fantastical science along with the badass action sequences that are always a lot of fun. I tried not to take the movie too seriously because of course it is extremely like out there and imaginative and like very complex, and of course it gets kind of corny towards the end when she starts unlocking like 70% plus of her brain power. It starts getting really weird.
It does, but it does make you think about what we could do if we used that much of our brain.
I know, it's
if we could turn into cells and like particles floating in the air.
I honestly thought there was going to be like a million little Lucys flying around. Like I like to speculate in movies, and it often ruins a lot of the plot twists and everything like that for me because I think ahead and think like, oh, what if this would happen? And then it happens, and then it's like, great. But
she does predict the movies quite a bit.
Mother.
Yeah, Mother was a good one. You predicted that before we even stepped foot in the theater. Before we even like really started talking about it, you knew exactly what was going on. It freaked me out.
I'm like,
because it took
are they Adam and Eve? I'm like, are they?
And I'm like, crap.
Yes, maybe. Let me read the Wikipedia page. I guess they have one of those. They have a Wikipedia page for everything.
They do, and I actually had to look it up. I forget what website it was, but it said, you should probably read this before you go see Mother. And I'm like, well, I didn't. And I really hated the movie at first. I thought it was a total waste of money. Freaked me out. But then... The first time. But actually thinking about it on the way home, I was like, oh.
Were you realizing
I was, yeah. Well, not really realizing things, but me and my sister were just like, oh my God, that was a complete...
Mind frick.
Yeah, mind frick, yeah. And, we didn't know what to do with it. So when I got home, I was like, I have to figure this out. It's driving me nuts. And when the very first line was, please read this before you go see Mother. Otherwise, you're going to just be, completely confused the whole time. And then I was like, well, crap. So it's definitely not one of those movies you want to go into blind. You're like, oh, this looks good. I'll go see it. No. Because you're going to walk away going, what the... I'm really mad.
I think it was fun. I don't know. I really like going into things blind. In like most movies you can. Most movies you should. Like most movies you should maybe limit it to one trailer and then call it quits, like with Star Wars The Force Awakens. Not The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I was about to say, what?
Yeah. You don't know how many trailers I watched for The Force Awakens.
I watched all of them, and with each one I got more and more angry.
Excited? Oh,
no, angry.
Why?
Because I knew it was going to be it was not going to please me like the others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Live up to your expectations?
No, and it did not.
So, Lucy, I totally thought when she was on the plane and she was exploding into, like, billions of particles and pieces of herself that, like, I don't know, she was gonna accidentally, like, rip the wall off the side of the jet and, like, whoosh, like, there goes Lucy, like, pollinating the planet and, like, sowing her wild oats, and, like, there was gonna be a billion Lucys just sprouting from the earth, and then they were gonna grow and take over the world. I don't know why I was expecting that.
Well, it's very crazy because, like, you see her go into the bathroom, and then all that stuff starts to happen, and in the very next scene, they're like, yes, she's resting well. And you're like, what?
Oh, yeah. What happened?
Yeah. How did she, what? Yeah. So.
That's one question I
It
had.
was really like, oh, okay. She was like peeling herself apart and trying to hold herself together, and then all of a sudden she's resting,
eating all the drugs.
Yeah, she ate all the. I was like, oh, she's like, where? Bring me the rest of the bags. No, you just ate the first bag. You don't need any more. That one, that part really like threw me for a loop. I was like, why?
Yeah. Well, why did she appear?
Yeah. All of a sudden, she's okay. Why would they go from that and not like
really lazy writing?
Yeah, it's true.
And not wanting to fill in the gap because the movie was already long enough. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do with so much time. How many times have you seen the movie before? Movie. I like movies.
I like movies.
How many times have you seen this movie before tonight? Tonight was my first time.
I probably 4 or 5. Around there, yeah.
Do you think that you've gained something new or different every time you've watched it? Or has it been pretty much the same, like, cinematic experience? Like,
probably,
oh yeah, I know it's going to happen. I like this movie. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good time. Killing a couple hours.
Probably the first 2 times, but every time after that, no. It's just been like, usually I'm like, oh, this is going to be so, I love this movie. It's so exciting. So if you could grade it on, like, give it a 1 through 10.
Oh, thank God. I thought you were going to say, give it a letter grade. And I'm like, I use letter grades.
Also, how likely are you to watch it again in the future, and how soon?
I would watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in a year and a half plus.
Ooh.
Yeah. I want to give myself time. Like, number 1, I have so many other things to watch. Number 2, I have so many other things to rewatch that I might rewatch in between then, just, you know, that I gotta throw in there because I don't always only watch new stuff. And then it wasn't a movie that I'm like, oh my God, I love this. I need to watch it again. I would give it maybe a 7.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
7.5.
Yeah.
It
was really fun, and then it was a really fun experience, and I don't think I ever got bored.
Yeah. I feel like, obviously, I've enjoyed it because I've watched it so many times. Mm-hmm. And just for, like, some of the really cool fight scenes and things alone, I'd have to give it a 9.
How many fight scenes would you say were in it?
There weren't that many, but when there were, like, especially the first one when, like, the guy walks into the room and she's like, hey,
she whips
come
the
and
belt
get
around
me.
The table. That was
yeah. Cool. Like, you're really not, like, it's totally unexpected, because at the beginning of the movie, she seems like this really frail, like...
Is it unexpected, though? You knew
it's expected, but you're like,
yeah,
whoa. Yeah. After just seeing her float to the ceiling. I think it's one of the ones that I would like to have, like, maybe playing in the background while I'm doing something else. Vacuuming, I could just look up. Oh, wow, yeah.
The reason I asked how many fight scenes you think there were in it is because... Obviously, the first one, when the guys come in there, or the guy comes in here, he's like, oh, I'm going to get with you. You're wide open. Oh, anyway, sorry.
Earlier I said, hey, come and get it, and you're wide open. Like,
took it to the next level.
You did. That's okay.
No, the reason I ask is because there's that scene, obvious fight scene, and then I'm trying to remember exactly what other, like, fight scenes there were, because I felt like each group she approached next, she was just like...
Or, like, shooting.
Float away.
Yeah, or, like, shooing them away.
Yeah, like,
or
shoot,
whatever.
Shoot. And they're all, like, it was comical. What do you think happened when she first like the drugs hit her for the first time? When she got that first high and she started like floating sideways and stuff. Do you think she just was like, she can alter her electromagnetic field but couldn't control it, so she was going all over the place? Like, why? Why did she look like the exorcism?
Well, I don't know. I guess that's like one of those, like, obviously a lot of the sci-fi movies that we see that have like aliens and, you know, people from other planets, they can obviously do things like that. And I think it's like kind of pointing that out, like that, you know, we don't use that much of our brain. We could obviously be floating if we wanted to.
Morgan Freeman, which he can give me a pep talk any day. He can probably talk about like, here is this apple, and make me feel sentimental feelings, and like,
well, he has that
about
show
an apple.
He has that show. Into the Wormhole, I think is what it's called. It's on one of those science-y history channels, and it talks about all that next level type stuff that kind of is what Lucy is kind of about. So I think that's something he's really, you know, big into. So they picked a really good person to do that.
When he was talking about all the different levels of brain power and, you know, what do you unlock when you reach level 10%, well, that's us right now, so 20%, 30%, 40%, etc. Like, what do you think the levels were? Because I was having kind of trouble catching on. Obviously, there is the, like, telekinesis and the floating, and I can read your mind, and I have the sonar, I can see people through the walls, and then she can manipulate matter, and then she can, I guess, manipulate fields. So, like, do you think that guy just ran into a field? Or do you think she can mess with his mind and say, like, you think there's a wall there? And he was like, oh, there's a wall here, but there wasn't.
No, I think honestly she put it up. Like, she could make that happen. So, I don't know what the different levels are and what, you know, I wasn't paying, like, that close attention. But
yeah. And I know you don't have all the answers. This is all just speculation. So, and then the computer thing at the end. What?
When she turned into the computer?
When she turned first into a tree and was like, and then it was like the vacuum from Teletubbies. It was like, and it was sucking up not only energy but matter and everything else. Mm-hmm. Why and what?
She was consuming all the knowledge and she was like the supercomputer.
Yeah, she became the computer. But see, that's what's weird is like, okay, so if you have a human, which obviously we were around before computers were around. Computers were a piece of technology, a piece of equipment, a thing that was invented and built by man. Uh-huh. So why would she, being this, like, ancient entity, essentially, because she's, you know, this potential's been around since the beginning of time, turn into something that we know now as, like, being a futuristic piece of technology?
Because maybe it's not to her. Maybe it's really not. It's just what we see it as. It's like, take The Fifth Element. My favorite. There you go. Oh, God. Like Lilu. She's the supreme being. But when she, you know, came to, what's his name? Vito Cornelius, yeah. When, like, she was there and they were teaching her about all this stuff, and the guy was like, oh, what is she doing? And he's like, learning our history from the past, you know, so many years that she's missed. And she was just, like, reading everything on the computer and absorbing the knowledge and everything, and she was getting stronger and stronger, and it took her, like, that to learn English and all this kind of stuff, and I think it's kind of the same concept.
I just wonder if that was a subconscious part of her, having unlocked that much of her brain to go out and search and try to find everything she could, or if that was her saying, like, hey, I'm about to die, let me try to get everything and see what I can do. Yeah. It could be either or.
It could be.
Had to get water break. instead
Get
of
water break.
that kind of deserves some explanation, which makes sense because you can't just throw like a plot and I don't want to say explanation again, but explanation about like a very complicated and like high level subject to a bunch of regular people like us. And
I'm regular. You're a little bit on a whole other level.
I'm using 13% of my brain. Can't like throw that out there to the general public and expect them to be like, oh yeah, I get everything. I get everything you're just telling me in this one sit down, this one watch of the movie. And I don't have any questions. Like,
I agree. 110%.
So one of his quotes, there's the one where, you know, if you can't adapt, if it's an inhabitable environment or whatever, the goal is immortality.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. And then if they can adapt and they reproduce.
Yeah. That makes sense. If you can adapt to your environment, you're going to reproduce, be like, oh, this is good.
But the immortality thing, I didn't understand that either.
Yeah. If it's inhabitable, you either move or die. Right? So.
Inhabitable?
Inhabitable. Inhabitable.
I was like,
you're like something about that.
Let me use the 1% of my brain I actually use. One inhabitable.
Please help.
Please help.
Please help us.
Please help.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I love the fifth element.
Don't understand why she had to explode into a billion different cells. Like, she was degenerating. Is that because, like, her time was up? Was she dying already? Or was it, like, oh, she was about to get caught and she can't...
I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. We'll have to look it up, see what other people's interpretation of the movie is, and maybe you guys can help.
Which, again, this is my interpretation. Don't hate. But you know how subjectively and in other people's, you know, cultures, opinions, and understandings, how humans were made in God's image?
Yes.
Right? Okay, you know how Lucy became basically God once she unlocked 100% of her brain?
Yeah.
Because she became omnipotent? I forgot what that means.
No, Joey, omnipotent. Oh, sorry.
She knew everything, like, because she, you know, sucked up all the knowledge, and she already knew what people were going to say before she could read minds. She knows what you're thinking, knows what you're feeling. She can feel everything. She's omnipresent because it's like the laws of time, she didn't obey them anymore, and she was not constrained to this one linear timeline in our one place on this linear timeline. She could rewind time, go back and forth between time. She can go back in time. You saw her go all the way to the Jurassic era, and she could go anywhere in the world she wanted. And yeah. I thought which I guess she teleported there, though. It's not like she was this spirit until the end when she did.
Yeah, because she always came back to her form. Yeah, no.
At first I couldn't tell, and I thought like there was some weird connection to make between when she arrived in New York City and everyone was just passing her and nobody noticed her. I guess that was just New Yorkers being New Yorkers, because then when she went back and saw the Indians, they were like, oh, what are you? And then the monkey was like, oh, what are you? And then the T-Rex was like, food. So,
oh, I like you.
I like you. Yeah, you taste good. I don't know if that was just something I noticed, or if the director wanted it to be that way, where like modern civilization couldn't see her or whatever, or didn't pay attention, but the ancients did.
So thanks for watching.
Let's get nerdy again.
Next time.